Okay, I will record. Okay, we're recording. I just want to make sure that I record this first part. This is Caroline Maxvill. We got Hannah. Hannah's, raise your hand. Okay, and we've got Grace, and we've got Campbell. And all three of you, none of you are ninth grade or older, correct? Just to verify. Okay. We just want to make sure that everything's great for Caroline.
Yes.
So you guys, I thought it would be just fun to have Caroline come on, and I've got some questions that people have already that have sent to me, the kids that couldn't be on here tonight. But one of the things, Caroline swam with us as an age grouper, and she went through all the different groups. And one of the things that I remember so distinctly about Caroline is that, one, she loved to have fun at practice, and two, she loved to have fun with all of her teammates. But she also was like super close with a bunch of the guys. Like we had this really fast guy group at that time. And I remember you wanted to go to tags, and you came up to me and you go, Coach Maggie, I want to go to tags. And I go, Caroline, if you want to go to tags, you've got to race every single one of those boys at every single practice. And you were like, okay. And then you went after it and you started racing, and that was like the turning point for you. And then you guys, we were at Woodlands. Hannah, come back on. We were at the Woodlands pool. You guys have never been there. And so it's a big long course pool and it's outdoors. And we were doing chase starts, and Caroline was going to do the 200 IM, and we were betting like who could win the chase starts, right? So she's in the 200 IM. She hadn't gotten into finals yet. And it was like, she goes, I got to get into finals, because all the boys were in finals. We were like winning everything. We were like getting in there. And I said, Caroline, we need you in there. So you're like, okay. And so we all stood on the end of the pool and said, Caroline, if you can, I don't remember what reward you gave you. But we said, if you can do a, chase start and catch the person in front of you, you'll get, a lot. And so we were all standing there, and Caroline is zooming, and we're like, oh my God, she's going to do it. And you like took off on the girl in front of you, and you caught her. And you touch that wall and go to turn, and she gets to the wall and looks and goes like this. You're like, what? It was hysterical. It was awesome. Do you remember that?
I remember that meet. That was a fun meet. It's funny to like hear races, because when you're in it, you're like, I just did it. Like, I feel like if it was a challenge like that, like I just did it and had fun with it and kind of made it my own. But I remember that meet, and it was fun, because then tags. Yeah, I guess that was tags, because that was the Woodland tags. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
it was like from the pictures. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. Right.
No, it's like I have pictures from that tags, because I remember everyone made finals back, and that group of boys, like I still am friends with all of them. And
because we won the 10 under division, 11-12 division, 13-14 division.
That was when we were 11-12, and then the 13-14 was when they had it in Austin. So
yeah, that's right. That was awesome. And then one of the things that I want you to put
on.
Oh,
Maggie, I was gonna say, you might want to check to see if more kids have tried to sign on. If you click participants.
Okay.
Just to be sure, because I know I left a couple out the other day for a few minutes.
Well, no one I don't see anyone on here asking.
Okay.
I could text them, but I think we're good. Maybe this was kind of spontaneous. So Caroline, talk about how you went from A to tags, and then you went from tags, and then you went to sectionals to nationals. And then one of the things I also wanted you to touch base on is the difference between when we went to Worlds, where Worlds was the oddest environment I've ever been to for a championship meet.
Yeah.
Because it was super quiet. Yeah. So you had to actually, you remember that? And because so many people were there at Worlds, just like one coach with one swimmer, and rarely were there two swimmers per coach. And so it was like really quiet, and you had to get up and perform no matter what. And it was like so strange. And that was when you were flipped in the pool and Phelps was in front of you. And you were like, I can't do this. Phelps is like flipping at me. And I go, you get in there, Caroline, and you just bust it. And you know you can do it. So you're like, okay. So you got in his lane and you let him flip right next to you. You remember that? It was awesome. You weren't going to back off.
Definitely, I think when you're looking at, I think Texas swimming is awesome. I think y'all are so lucky to swim and kind of grow up in a state like that, because you're going to have all those meets that you go to, and tags is so fun. And then you're going to go to sectionals. And I think for me, kind of going, whenever there was like a next challenge, it was like, okay, so I did this tags. I, made this my goal. I wanted to win. I think I won long course when I was 13 or 14. It was at A&M. And I was like, all right, what's next? I'm going to get a final or whatever at sectionals. And, my first sectionals, I was probably like 60 something. I mean, it was like, not like I jumped from tags and went straight into, finaling or getting top 16 at sectionals. It was definitely something that I just set a goal. So if I was entered, 64th or something like that, how could I be 30th? Or the next year, how can I be, top 24? And just kind of setting those, those goals, and always kind of wanting to achieve that next level for yourself, whatever, that is. Ultimately, that got me to, that world champs meet. And, like she said, it's definitely a different experience. And that's something, not that, I mean, it's just kind of, you don't expect it. It is quiet. You don't have groups of teams cheering, and, to go and jump from, they didn't have juniors at that time. So you literally went from sectionals
to nationals to worlds.
Yeah. So it was kind of like this whole new experience. I remember that same meet. It was the first time I had a zipper suit. So we had tried, it was like before lasers and before all that. And we had this suit that zipped up the back.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Never tried it. And we were like, let's just do it. What does it matter? And I couldn't move. We were just so tight. I couldn't move this way. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm just going to stay with the open back. And that was the last time I wore a knee suit. And I don't know, I probably never told you this, but I did not wear a knee suit again until college. Right. And then I got my trials cut and everything, and just the normal.
That's because you were doing breaststroke. She was a breaststroke for you guys.
And so then I get to college, and I'm at A&M, and Tracy's like, okay, we're going to order racing suits for conference. And I'm like, okay, I want the record breaker. She's like, you're not getting a record breaker for conference. And I was like, that's what I swim in. She's like, you are not. I was like, she's like, you will learn how to swim in a knee skin. I was like, but yeah, I mean, it's just, I think, setting, kind of to go back to the question, setting, those goals of, okay, realistically, if I'm 64th at sectionals, can I get 40 something? Can I get 30 something? Can I keep moving up from short course to long course, or things like that? And, and that makes it fun, because every time you come back, you're passing people that, you were racing, the season before. But I just, like she said, I just tried to have fun with it. And it helped having, people to race and practice. And, I think the setup was really cool at COR, because, you went from lane 6 to lane 1, and fastest kids were in lane 1, and you're like, well, how do I get there? And just even little goals like that. If I was in lane 3, I'm like, well, I'm going to be doing the intervals in lane 1. How do I get to that point to be doing those intervals in lane 1? And that's kind of, I think, what the main kind of things that helped me get to that. It's not, it's not rocket science. It was hard work, but I think it's just not overdoing it. Don't try to say, hey, I have this time right now and I want to make, nationals. I think it's just taking it step by step, and then you will get there because you took those steps to get there.
Yeah, one of the things that Caroline was talking about, taking it step by step too, when she was younger, she didn't get her first tags time until she was, 12?
Yeah.
She always had really good strokes as a 10 and under, and I used to call her Sea Turtle for Caroline, but Sea Turtle just because I'd say, if you really ever just want to go, your strokes are good, you'll get really fast. And she had a lot of boys to kind of compete against, and so that was one of the things that I think that Maggie had talked about early on too, was that kind of pushed her. Were competing with those boys that were faster, and those guys were pushing each other. It's kind of similar to the group that's in senior gold right now that Campbell's with, or will eventually be with. She can get back in the water. But yeah, I don't know if I can share my screen or not, but I wanted to point out some of the pictures that I thought were cool. Can you guys see those?
Yeah. Oh, those are my dudes.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, but Garrett swam with us at that age. Is this Mark or
Yep,
no?
that's
Yeah,
Mark.
Mark and Stephen Yang. I don't know if anybody remembers Matthew Yang. You might be all too young for Matthew, but that was their middle brother.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just remember this was pretty recent, wasn't this?
Yeah, it was like a couple of years ago for Christmas. We went to dinner. And then I pulled this. This is Bryson's wedding. I have this one printed.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're still doing it. Yeah. One of the things too, Caroline, when you went from training with boys and girls, and then you go to Texas A&M and you're training with girls, how do you motivate the other girls? And how do you, I know that being a collegiate swimmer, you're going to be a little more motivated, but
Yeah.
to get females motivated in racing each other. Because now we have this great female group, and you're looking at 3 of them right here. And I want them to push each other and keep moving, striving for the goals.
I think it was really, we identified just who we were. And then we kind of respected that, and we kind of learned within each other what motivated each other. So like I had a lane, it was me, like this is kind of our main lane before we broke off into different groups. And it was me and this girl, Jordan, and another girl, Liz. And we just made it fun. So we kind of realized we had, you know, the same kind of personality. So we would do days where we would like wear matching suits, and like for warm up and, you know, that first preset, like we would push each other, just even if it was like, hey, today's red suit day. That like made it fun for us, and it got us excited. And it was just kind of finding people and getting in those lanes and making it fun for yourself. And then, but also just kind of knowing, like we always shared each other's goals. We knew what each other wanted. So, you know, like I swam my senior year with Bria Larson. She was a freshman. And I would lap her every single Monday because she could not do any distance breaststroke at all. And that was our distance breaststroke practice. And, you know, her goals were really big. And I would just tell her, like, you have to keep, like, if you want to do this, like, you have to keep going. Like, you have to keep push yourself and make yourself uncomfortable on these days. You just can't keep racing, you know, like you're going to get there if you just keep pushing. And, you know, we knew each other's goals, and we were able to hold each other, you know, to the standard of what that goal was. Because, you know, if you verbally say that to your friend or your teammate, like they're going to be, now that's, you've said that. So kind of, you have to live up to that, I guess. So that was something for us that, that was really big. And we just kind of rallied around, this is kind of what we wanted the team. And, you know, each day we made sure that what we were doing in the water was, you know, was adding up to that goal. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. And then how do you think you would react right now if you were going to be going to trials, or had wanted to, or you thought you were going to trials, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's shut down for a year?
It was sad.
So, yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'm still kind of dealing with that with seniors right now, because we had 2 of our senior girls who had trials, got it last summer in Stanford, and they were still training after SECs, and now they're done. So they're basically like, their last meet that they were planning on of their entire career was just ripped from them. We had one of our guys who had a breakout year, Brooks Curry. He was on track to potentially make a team on a relay, and that was kind of halted a little bit.
So how are you getting them refocused and ready to go? Like, because right now, it kind of gives an opportunity for some of them to get those trial cuts.
Yeah.
And then the ones that are right on it or have it, now they have something even more to work towards.
Yeah. So. And that's what we have one of our senior guys who he was going to be done. He swims, so he was trying to just be done. And now he's actually thinking, he doesn't swim for the United States, but he's actually thinking now, he's like, all right, I can have this surgery that he had to do, and this gives me a whole nother year that I can kind of prep everything. And so so for him, it actually worked. And so yeah.
That's an advantage for probably like, I see it as an advantage for like 6 of ours right now.
Yeah.
Like,
and we're just kind of taking it as right now, we're just kind of making sure everyone's kind of focusing their goals and not really resetting, I would say, because I think a lot of them want it anyways. But, you know, they can't be in the water, but we're just trying to say, all right, what's your weakness, like in dry land, or what's a weakness of your strength wise? If it's upper body strength, are you doing pull-ups during this time? If it's, your kick, are you working on leg strength? Are you working on reaction? Just things like that. So when we get back, that those weaknesses are a little less than, they're a little more of a strength. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, we just to answer a couple questions of kids that were on here, and then I'll let you guys that are on here ask some questions. If you're looking at, okay, someone said, how difficult is it to do a STEM major like engineering in Division I school? And can you swim and do these intense majors?
Yeah, you definitely can. It's just something you communicate. Yeah, you just communicate with your coaches. The two girls that I talked about that got their trials cuts over the summer, both were chemical engineers, and both now have job offers after school. So it's definitely doable. It's just something you communicate when you're getting recruited. That's what you want to do, and your coach talk to when you're on a trip there, or ask how successful people have been doing those majors on the team. But it's very doable. Coaches support it all the way. We realize most people aren't going to go pro in swimming, so
right,
go pro in something else in life. But yeah.
And then do college coaches look more? And I think I know this answer, but I want you to say it. Do they look more closely at UIL or USA Swimming database?
USA Swimming for the most part, just because that's an easier database for us to access. Obviously if you go a best time at a UIL meet at state or something like that, we're going to know, we're going to see that, and that it still sticks as your best time. But we recruit more out of USA Swimming meets and club meets. It's easier to access and kind of for us to get to and see. So.
And also there's a progression in USA Swimming meets.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can see all that, the chart and everything like that.
Yeah. And you can see all that. And then when someone's filling out a recruiting questionnaire, other than times, what do schools look for when they're recruiting?
Grades, what you're involved in outside of the pool, if you have kind of anything going on, if you're NHS, if you volunteer, just if are you involved in the LSC or any kind of swimming stuff, what have you done, besides just swimming in school. It just kind of gives us a glimpse of who you are, and not just not about how much people have done. It's just more what your interests are. It kind of helps us figure out who you are a little bit better.
Okay, cool. And then there's a question on the questionnaire right now that a couple of them are having trouble, and it says, tell us what about ourselves or yourselves stand out. What are they looking for right there?
I mean, I would just say, is there, are you someone on the team that brings a lot of energy? Are you always the one cheering in the stands? Are you leading cheers? Are you are you more of a background kind of person? Those people are just as important too, I think, to teams, or people kind of behind the scenes, behind the camera kind of person. Right. Just kind of what role do you like to play on your team? Something about your swimming did you jump from a BB swimmer to all of a sudden, state or sectionals, and how that happened, or, just something that kind of makes you a little unique. And, it kind of, I think if you can answer that question, it kind of makes sure you know who you are. It kind of gives a little self-awareness.
Great. That's excellent. Well, those are the biggest things. And someone said, can you tell us about your Olympic trial experience? It
was awesome. That's kind of why it's kind of sad that it doesn't get to happen this year, but it's okay. But it was great. It went by so fast. Actually, one of the coolest parts of my Olympic trials experience was, I don't even know if y'all know this, but a girl who I swam with when I was in age group, Brittany Obenchain, had actually gone to school in Nebraska, and it was our freshman year of college. And she actually drove over and got to see me swim at trials. So it was a really cool, full circle moment, which was awesome.
That was it was Caroline and Britt. I always called her Britt. Yeah.
And we
called her BO because she was a little stinker. She was.
But it was awesome. It was a great week. All I remember about my swim was it's totally different than any meet you've ever gone to. Everyone's super, super focused. You can't be on deck, so it's literally only the pool, and they walk you up. Every single heat is walked out on their own. So you're walked out. It's my memory at least, which is probably kind of like a dream, it was like the stands were all black and the pool is just blue. And you get up on the blocks, I swam my race, you get out, and I was like walking off the deck, and I was just like, that was so fast. That was like the fastest swimmer breaststroke I've ever swam. Not even in like time, but just it was a blur. And there's like a carpet, and they have media people. So like this Dallas Morning News guy was stopping everybody and asking questions, and that was kind of cool. And then I think the coolest part that year was that one of our teammates actually at A&M made the meet. So she was kind of like a dark horse and got 6th on the 200 free. So she ended up making the team. And so that was just really exciting to kind of be a part of that whole celebration. And it was awesome. It's definitely an experience that if you can go as a spectator, a swimmer, whatever, it's just an awesome week of just celebrating the sport.
Yeah, it's definitely our Super Bowl of our sport.
Yes.
It's actually Olympic trials. I always feel like is so much more exciting than actually the Olympics, and the emotion behind it. Like just doing it. I mean, even after like Adam swam, the first thing he did was like run and had to find me just so that he could like just hug me. I mean, he was like, you just become overwhelmed when you're there. Yeah. And then when you leave there, you're like, whoa. All right, girls, do you guys have anything that you want to talk about? We have just a few more minutes, and I feel like I've definitely monopolized. Or Caroline, did you have something?
No, I was just going to say it's kind of funny because it goes so fast, and then all of a sudden it's over, and it's like fun to reminisce about. But we didn't really have like iPhones back then. It was 2008, so like I have like no pictures. I have like nothing to commemorate like the 4 day, like, whatever days I was there. So I just try to tell people to soak it in, take as many pictures as you possibly can, because I wish I had done that. So
yeah, isn't that weird? There's like one picture I think of us at Worlds. I found that the other day. Oh, I should have brought it out. I don't know where it is. Yeah, it's like we didn't do that. We didn't take a picture of every single thing. Selfie here, selfie there.
Well, I wanted to ask Caroline, since your time being at, with Miami, TCU, now LSU, A&M before, how many, like you had mentioned, the kids going from double B straight to, really fast meets. How many kids have you kind of come across or getting into school that you've worked with that have out of nowhere, out of high school, now they're all of a sudden on college radars as far as swimming goes?
A lot. There are a lot of diamond in the rough people that have come through no matter what school I've been at. And that is something that we look at quite a lot. We don't look and say, hey, someone was fast at 14 and, they've had the same time. So it's one of those things that you can hit your lightning bolt swim at any time, and schools will still be out there, looking for that. And that's actually something that I think people, take value in a lot of. Like I gave the example of Brooks Curry earlier. He was literally like ranked like 500 and something. He was looking at us and one other school, and that was it, his senior year. And then all of a sudden won SECs in the 100 free this past year. And, I think,
awesome.
Yeah, so it's that, like the girl I talked about who made the Olympic team at A&M my freshman year, she was like a 154 200 freestyler, and she was mostly like a flyer coming out of high school, and then got to college and all of a sudden just became really good at 200 free and made the Olympic team. So I think it's something that you never know, even if it's not your event, you never know what you can be, really good in. And, just kind of if you keep those drops, you never know when that swim could happen. So,
right. And you have to be flexible enough to change your event.
Right. I've seen it happen.
Like Hannah, who's down there, Hannah really, I think, is kind of changing her events now, So it's kind of like you just don't know. And you just have to do something better each time. Like, if you want to get better, you can't do exactly the same thing.
I remember, like, this is kind of, I might remember it differently, but I wasn't really a pure breaststroker, I don't really think, until after the summer that I had just like really bad tendonitis in my shoulder, and I kicked a lot, and the only stroke that I could start off doing was breaststroke. And then all of a sudden it became better, and the next thing you know, I'm like really good at breaststroke.
We're
So-
an IMer. We raise IMers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when we raise IMers, you were able to break away with that. But you
Right.
used to have a pretty good 50 and 100 free, but then breast just became, you just started, because Caroline's not very tall, you guys, either.
I'm not. I'm
How
only
tall
five.
are you? How tall are you?
How tall?
Me 5'4".
Yeah, so she's short. So being a good breaststroker was a good thing because she didn't have the height to be the sprinter, and but then you got stronger. You were much stronger, so that makes a big difference.
It was either be a breaststroker or a distance freestyler. So I chose.
Anybody have Campbell? You have? Oh, we got running out of time here. Campbell, do you have any? Oops.
I did actually have a question.
Okay, go quick, babe.
How did you deal with nerves before like a big meet?
That's something that I learned a lot when I was going through swimming. But what I did, I was not good at it. I will say that. I got really nervous. And looking back, if I could tell myself, you just have to have fun when you're racing and know that whatever happens in the race is going to happen, and that you've put in the work and it's going to come. And the race that I've just not put that much pressure, and I've just kind of stood behind the block with deep breaths and said, all right, like I have no control. I mean, I do have control, but of what's going to happen next, but all the hard work I did. So, whatever happens now, I'm just going to follow my race plan, do what I'm supposed to do, and then let the rest go. And what I tell, my swimmers is that the more tense you are, like if you think about your muscles physically, if you're like this, if you're a rock, you're going to sink. So you just kind of have to like float and just be free and loose and just know that the hard work has been put in. And then this is the fun part. And when you kind of like think of it that way, is like, because if you think about football players or other sports where they have a game every week, like that's your game. Like you should get hyped up. You should be ready to go. Like that's your time to shine. And that's kind of how I learned as I got older that this is the fun part. The hard part's what we do every day, and then the racing is when we're allowed to kind of have our game time. So
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Anybody else before we click over to the other one? Yeah. Thanks, Caroline. We're gonna hook up to the other one. Thanks, you guys. Glad you guys came on.
thanks,
Okay,
guys.
Greenia, what do I do here? I just push stop recording?
You can just do end.
Yeah, but how am I gonna get this recorded?
It'll automatically convert it on your computer and